it is the most expensive part of a disaster, for the most part. Katrina alone was about $6 billion in debris. I don't disagree with you. The problem is, FEMA will only reimburse on a competitively bid contract. If you got 15 of you and removed it, it would be significantly cheaper. But FEMA's not reimbursing for your time. Now, they may reimburse for the volunteer time and the machinery used, and that would offset your 12.5% on other projects if the town wants to get together and do that. We'll monitor it for you and make sure it's accurately done. But that's a call you as a volunteer would have to do. So, and that's, I mean, I can't make that call for the town.
Say that again, I didn't understand. There's something that the town could do in what way to offset 12%?
If you had volunteer labor hours, volunteer machine hours, and your volunteer fire department is a perfect example of that. All their volunteer time in the rescue offsets the town's cost match.
The town can have a volunteer project, which would mean they wouldn't have to come up with 12.5%?
No, it means it offsets the 12.5% you owe on other things.
Oh.
So the time and materials that the volunteer fire department used, that 12.5% of the 1.6 million in your other projects, those hours can be used to offset your 12.5% share of those projects. So we met with the fire department immediately and said you need to start tracking this stuff because that time can be used.
But volunteering is so important during a disaster. You know, it actually works towards towards helping the community in the long run.
We know there's going to be a significant expense to remove that stuff, reshape it and stuff. You have to do it as a volunteer because it has to be a competitively bid contract to be reimbursed. It has to set a reasonable rate, and that's the way they set reasonable rate. So, I mean,
all this stuff has to be done because of the disaster, right?
correct.
Why do we even mess with Brian Drum and his date? It's got to be done. The hell with the date. Why do we, you know?
There is a FEMA regulation.
Mother Nature doesn't know about the disaster.
I understand.
She throws it in any day she wants.
FEMA has a regulation on environmental. If you don't adhere to the environmental rules, there's actually nothing that people in the field can do. The money immediately gets deobligated. So if you don't adhere to your permitting, environmental standards, environmental check, there's nothing the field guys can do. They have to deobligate the funds they can't pay.
So if something happens right after the deadline date, they got to repay again when they could have really got away a lot easier?
I've told these guys, I've told them, May, you're probably going to be paying for the same stuff because you're going to have another disaster. You know, I'm actually, you know, my family grew up in Docksville. My uncle's house has been flooded probably 7 times in the last 10 years because it's just below the reservoir. And we know it's going to get flooded again. Next time, I'm surprised it wasn't flooded this time. And it's because certain things that there's only, you know, you can blame FEMA for so much, you can blame the state for so much. There's rules and regulations these guys can't get around as much as they try.
Too much.
So I understand that, but there's nothing the guys in the field can do about it. And my goal is to maximize your funding. And we don't adhere to these. A couple $1 million is half your town budget. And you don't want to lose it. And you don't want to go out and doing things that are kind of on the edge and it may cost you a couple extra $100,000. You don't want to do those either. Because that's a lot of money to a town like this.
I work for a lot of people that want to pay to have the stream done right in front of their house. And they always get, you know, sidelined because of these stupid regulations.
Yeah, DEC and DEP.
They're listening to too many people that don't have any common sense.
I fished these streams almost all my life. I completely understand. Yeah, but these guys have gone overboard once you're on private property. But there's nothing, at this point, there's nothing we can do about it. Or have to live with the regulations we have.
Yeah, but there's no sense starting if you can't complete it.
And that's been my general view. If you can't get it done, don't waste the money.
But isn't that what you sort of said, that because there's going to be so much debris upstream, that it is going to be some sort of...
Well, we don't know if that, I don't know enough about that debris because it's on the state lands. When they're going to remove it, how they're going to remove it. Do they even have to stay with the deadline of the 30th because it's state land? I don't know that either. They may be able to waive their own rules. I can't answer that question on their own land. Our goal is to get rid of this down here and work with them to get rid of theirs. So. Not always great news, but that's all we got. So. Anybody else? You guys have been quiet over this side.
Dan.
This problem.
I just have one more question. You know how like there are these attorneys that will take jobs on spec, you know, you have a car crash, they assume you're gonna get, you know, $2,000 for broken rib or something like that. And so they don't charge you, they get a commission. Now, in this bidding, I know nothing about this, I'm just curious. In this whole bidding stuff like that, also, do we have the additional expense of floating a bond to pay for these contractors, or are they getting paid by FEMA?
Here's most national contractors. This is the general, they won't tell you this, but this is the general deal with them. They'll get paid when paid. They'll hold your invoice until, I mean, they'll give you the invoice, but they're not going to hunt you down for payment until they know you. They'll help you get your FEMA payment. They won't beat you up until you get paid by FEMA.
So there's no need to float a bond to pay these people?
Not the debris removal guys. Me, on the other hand, that's all.
But they'll pay the bill.
Well, 12.5% is, that's an issue you have to discuss down the road. But I will give you a couple examples of the team that came in second place that I know from what they've done nationally, because they used to come to us for appeals when I was at FEMA. They held for the government of Guam $12 million that was owed for 14 years.
What percentage of interest?
I don't think they charge them anything.
Really?
They held for URG, presently is holding for Livingston Parish, which is in Louisiana, because it's going through appeal now, whether it gets paid or not, $58 million. So they haven't said anything to the community. We're going to work with you, FEMA denied it first, we're going to work with you through the appeals process. And this has been since Katrina, so that's been 6 years.
So that was their 12.5% that they took years to pay back?
No, that's their bill.
That's the bill.
That's the overall
The whole
bill.
bill.
Yeah.
The 12.5% is a different story, right?
Yes.
We have to pay that.
You have to pay that, but they probably
that doesn't
ask
go to
you
the
for it
contract.
until
They
everything's
were,
paid.
yeah.
The
So they don't need it
12.5%?
up front and they don't need it right away?
No.
Most of them will not. They know two things.
Keep that in mind.
They know two things. They have to pay their subs on a weekly basis, or their subs won't be there. They're willing. They build in the cost of capital because they know they won't get paid generally in a timely manner. They may ask you for it. They may at times need it, but they'll work with you about that payment. And that's one of the pluses about, at least the debris removal guys, that they can do. Not only good cash flow. I don't even want to tell you what I'm on right now.
This 12.5% that we keep on talking about,
Not here. I mean in Virginia. So.
the 12.5%
Yes.
that we keep on talking about, how much is that? Do we have a general? Just
We
a
think with just the
figure?
vegetative debris, and we're not talking about the stones because we don't know where a lot of
Right.
We think we can get it down to about $1 million.
So our 12.5% is going to be about
Plus
$1 million.
Plus about 150,000 to 200,000 in debris monitoring costs.
That's gonna be the town's portion?
That's gonna
No,
be
that's
no.
going to be the overall cost. So 12.5%
The
of that.
12.5%
So
of that.
144,000.
144,000. So
I don't
Round
stick
up
me to that number, but that's I
150,000.
think that's where we'll be when we went and walked them last week, this week. We think that's by the cubic yard. Our goal is to get those costs and streams down as little as possible. URG's going to not be happy, but that's what it is.
So the cost to the town is going to end up probably being in the
We
ballpark of
hope-
150,000.
We hope it's around 150,000. I actually have told everybody if we can keep the town's cost at 150,000 or less, we have done them a great service. Because when we originally walked in here, I thought your cost was going to be about $500,000. Because I thought it was going to be about $5 million.
Dan, it's clear to me after hearing this that time is of the essence.
Absolutely.
And so we all know the bureaucrats have wide discretion to give exemptions and to allow permits to happen. I would feel better tonight if I knew the town had a game plan as to how they were going to lobby the powers that be at DEC so that we can secure that exemption. Maybe Bert could help us, or Bruce, and say, this is what we're doing to get that done.